That's it. I'm done with the load search for the week. The good news is that it's Friday. Are we recording? Yes, we're recording. This is Friday, and I look forward to this weekend after staring at my computer screen for, I don't know, second week in a row. Just wanted to mention a couple of loads I've been looking at, and some of my interactions with brokers, you know. Basically, the problem is, for some reason, right, everything is cheap. Customers don't want to pay for specialized trailer, and so the rates were low, but then I see they started going up, and like I said in the last video, I was feeling optimistic, and they start going up, you know, by as much as, like, I don't know, 50%, 70% some of the loads. I just wanted to mention a couple of interesting ones. There's a big excavator sitting in South Carolina, and it's 128,000 pounds. And of course, there's no way I can do 128. It's like even a 60-ton trailer is not enough. You know, like the rating. Sorry, the rating of the deck, right? You need a 65-ton trailer minimum, right? Or even 70-ton. And so this guy posts this load. It's like 850 miles, and they post this load. I think it was like 14 grand for 850 miles, you know. Which, if you don't know anything about heavy haul, that sounds like, gee, such a great deal, right? But since you need a 70-ton trailer, people that are familiar with this, and of course that's the major reason why they post the rate. Like most of the decent loads, they don't post the rate. So these people, they post the rate. Usually it's like a super low for a particular load, right? For this particular situation, because in this case it's a super heavy machine. You need I don't know, like 12 axles, you know, 13 axles. You need escorts, you need some you know, bridge surveys. That 850 miles is gonna take, I don't know, 2 weeks, maybe even more, you know. But I had nothing better to do, so I started, the guy pointed down the make and model of this machine, so I just wanted to see, you know, I'm curious about this stuff, right? So I went to their website and I found that machine and I downloaded the booklet. So that's my pastime, right? So I'm I'm sitting in a coffee shop and I'm reading a booklet for the 128,000 pound Volvo excavator, which was just like passing time until I came to an interesting section in that booklet. It says shipping. And these guys, these Volvo guys, are so good, you know. They tell you exactly what the machine will weigh in different configurations when you remove certain parts for easier trucking, for easier transportation. And I start going by that list, you know. They can remove this, they can remove counterweights, the weight becomes this. They can remove the bucket or the stick, you know, the boom, the weight becomes this. And then I come at the middle of that, in the middle of that list, there's without the whole boom and the arm and the bucket and counterweights, this thing is, it says, depending on the shoe size, like the tracks, depending on that, it can be, the weight can be anywhere from 92 to 97,000 pounds, I think it was, or 99. No, I think 92 to 97. And that's already I can do with 8 axles, right? So I grabbed my phone and I called the guy, just out of curiosity. But actually, before I did, I checked their credit on my factoring company website. I punch in the MC number because of course it's, you know, it's a lot of money, so you want to make sure that you can factor that. I don't trust anybody, so I check their credit. Says call, like there's no automatic approval. Basically something is not right with this company. So even if I could do it, financing would be problematic, like factoring would be difficult, so you would have to ask them for, like, usually if I cannot factor, I ask them to, they can do wire transfer on loading, when you send them pictures of your load on the deck and they send you money, or they send you money when you unload. But that's kind of like a weird, I don't like that, when they say, yeah, we pay as soon as you give us the confirmation that the load was delivered. And then there's, what's the guarantee that you will pay? Like one guy I was dealing with, he says, like on a different load, he says, you deliver to a port and we pay always, we've been in business for 30 years, we always pay with wire transfer. And I said, how does it work? He says, as soon as you send us a copy of the dock receipt where this load is delivered, we'll send you a wire. But I don't have the load anymore, right? Like, I have no leverage. If they just decide, hey, basically, we don't know who you are, you know? I don't like that. So the best part, I think, if the credit is bad, is to get cash on loading. That's the best deal, in my opinion. Like, you know, you send them, like, I didn't even come up with it, right? I didn't come up with this myself. Like, this guys, I told them that I cannot use them because of the poor credit, and they said, we can do this. And they suggested this, that just get loaded, send us pictures, we'll send you wire transfer for 100% of the amount, you know? Beautiful. But anyway, so I checked this guy, his credit sucks, but I just called him, you know, out of like technical curiosity, because I keep learning about heavy haul and, you know, how I can make more money. And I called this guy and I said, hey, this is Sergey from Canada, I see you have this load. Have you guys thought about breaking it, you know, down into parts? And I said, because I got 8 axles, I can do 95, 97 probably 1,000 pounds, but I definitely cannot do 128. And he says, no, they want to ship it as a whole, as one unit. But even I was looking at the picture, with that boom, if you don't remove anything, like with the bucket on the ground, like in full transport position, the top of the boom was like 15 feet. You know, it's a very big excavator. So I don't know how they hope to move this thing without taking things off. If you remember, I did a couple of these big machines and they always take them apart. They remove counterweights, they remove the boom, right? Like I have this house before, like there was like a big red excavator, and people didn't have a problem with that. That's how they ship them. But these guys, this shipper, for some reason, I guess doesn't believe in this, and he's waiting for a 70-ton guy who would agree to do it for that kind of money. But then, of course, what's funny is that when I mentioned this, is that they start raising the price. They keep posting the price, but I see every day it's going up, you know, from 14,000 up, and then I see Landstar jumped into the action. They grab the load from this guy, and what they do is they post that load, everything is the same, origin, destination. They change the weight. Instead of 128, they put 130. But I see it's the same shipping, the same town. I think even the make and model are the same, so they just change it. So, but you know, they post their loads alongside with the original broker. I don't know what they hope to achieve like that. Like, why would I deal with them if I see that I still see the load from the original broker? But that's how a lot of these Landstar guys, that's how they find loads. You know, they just go to the load board, and if that's a legitimate load, pays good money, they just probably call the guy and say, hey, can I try to find customers as well, right? And they don't even bother going to a different load board, they just post it on the same load board. I'm not sure how that works for them. So that was one load, right? So it couldn't work for me. Then another load was, again, on the heavier side. Some guy had 107,000 pounds. So now we're getting somewhere, because my trailer is rated for 110, right? And of course I don't have enough axles for 107,000 pounds, but again, the rate was very low. It was going into Brooklyn, basically New York City, New York, right? And I even emailed, before I called the guy, I emailed, again, this is just like me researching, because I know I cannot do it, but I emailed my permit company. I said, guys, what would it take for me to hold this 107? Like, what do I need? You know, like more axles. What about permits? And of course, they didn't tell me anything about axles, but they said permits would be a nightmare because there's a bunch of there's a bunch of permits involved, not just New York State, but New York City. Then they said there's separate permits for the boroughs like Brooklyn and stuff, and they said there can be bridge surveys. They said it can take like a week or 2 weeks, you know. And that's when you know that the rate is low. I think this guy originally offered like 4,000 on a 107,000 pound excavator going to Brooklyn. And then you know what's happening over the next few days. I see the price going 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think the last time I checked it was at $10,000, and nobody's taking it. You know, it's just too much hassle. You know. But 109, 107, that at least already within the reach of my trailer, right? At least my, you know, I know many guys don't care about the actual rating of the trailer, but I don't want to overload it because that's when you have issues like cracks and stuff like that, right? What I had with Kaufman, which I never overloaded, but that was just bad steel, you know, bad karma. By the way, talked to Kaufman again. I recently just touched base with their engineer, a very nice guy, like the main engineer. I said, are you still there? And he says, yeah, we can do this, we can do that. He gave me like a quote because I said, I cannot find loads with my trailer. I said, everything is too heavy. But then another load pops up. And this guy is paying pretty good, 10 bucks a mile from US to Canada. And it's, I forgot, either 7,000 pounds or 20,000 pounds, but like ridiculous, you know. But it requires a double drop or LB, low boy, and that's my search is, I use 3 categories of trailers. It's on my load board, it's RGN, LB, and DD. So removable gooseneck, low boy, and double drop. And I search in Canada going to US, and then in US going to Ontario. And so this load pops up in US, and I look, the guy marks, you know, the dimensions, the weight, everything is proper. You know, some of these lazy brokers, they just put the name, number, and then DD, double drop. So no weight, well, and of course he puts orange and destination, but no weights, no dimensions, nothing. No email address, you just have to call the guy. But this guy was, you know, was good. And there's like 3 pieces, and I look at the length was like 12 and 12, which is okay, and then the third one was like smaller one. So it's like 3 air conditioning units, as I later found out. And that would work lengthwise because I can put the last one, like a smaller piece, I can put where my wheels are, you know, just probably leave my flip axle at home. But then I look at the height, and it's 12 feet 6 inches, you know, it's like 144, yeah, it was like 150 inches. And I know that that's not gonna work because well, at least I'm not comfortable going over 14 because then it takes forever to get permits. But you know, because of my raised center, right, I have to use blocks. And first of all, I don't have that many blocks. I have 8 10 by 10, 4 pieces 10 by 10, and 4 pieces 8 by 8. But if I put it on blocks, the floor will be level with my center, right, which is about 22-23 inches of the ground. So it's like a pretty tall trailer. And then you have this 12.6, you know, just it's almost 14.6, you know, to the top. So that's too much. And so I called the guy and I talked to him, but he was paying good money, you know, for the short distance. So it's not like heavy short distance HSD, it's a light short distance, LSD. Like the drug, light short distance. Whereas I prefer HSD, but I will take LSD because of course it's cheaper. You only need a basic I don't know, 10-ton trailer, you know, because these pieces are very light, and my deck would work like the length, but I'm too tall in the center, you know. So that's what's been happening. Like, all the loads are either too heavy or too tall and light. And I talked to a bunch of brokers about this, but at least something is, you know, I'm not like sitting and there's no loads. No, there are loads, but it takes forever to find a load even for one truck. I don't know. So that's why I know, that's why I used to sit for like 2-3 weeks when I worked for those guys, because they have company trucks, right? So of course they would look to load company trucks first, and then owner operators, you can wait, you know. But even one truck, like my company truck, right? It's hard to find a good load for, you know. Okay, and then I almost found a load. I think it was from here going somewhere into US. And I said, what is this? And she says, it's a John Deere articulated truck. You know, like a rock truck. I like those. They're simple to load, simple to tie down, you know. And I gave it, she says, I said, what are you offering in terms of money? See, it's all about money, basically. And she says, well, it's, you tell me your price and I'll pass it on to my customer, and then he'll tell me if it's okay or not. So I gave her the rate, because this thing was pretty big. I gave her like a high rate, and then didn't hear from her for a full day, and then I emailed this lady. I said, so what's going on? Like, did you hear from your customer? And she says, yeah, he found somebody like basically $600 cheaper. And I'm like, wait a second, so you didn't even have this load? And she explains to me that she deals with a very big customer, and he deals with like 3-4 brokers, and it's like a bidding system. So they give the same load to these 3 brokers, and brokers put it on load boards, and they try to find the cheapest trucker, right? And I just hate this system, you know, because people try to undercut each other. And I said, no, I'm not gonna lower my price. I gave you what I want, that's it. You know, it's a specialized load, articulated truck, come on. And you know, it's hard to stay positive, and so you spend time researching different trailers. At one point I was thinking, okay, nobody know, like, you cannot stay at that computer screen for, you know, 8 hours. You need a break, right? So I was looking into this Jeep again. Fontaine makes this Jeep 302, and I look on the track paper. I searched on trackpaper.com Fontaine 302, and I see this. And that doesn't look right. Like 302, it's a single axle Jeep designed for my trailer, for a 55 ton, and you need a 23-inch flip box, which I have. So the Fontaine website says that this Jeep, this small single axle Jeep model 302, will work with the 125-inch neck, basically original 102 plus 23 extension. And everybody says that's the only Jeep that will work with my trailer. And the reasoning, again, in this, like in researching these Jeeps, is because then I can go to Western Canada, which does not recognize my pusher axle, and also I can cross the Peace Bridge, right? Because Peace Bridge is my weakest point of entry into US, because technically I can gross like 160,000, right? Because I got all axles are at or higher 20,000 pounds. But Peace Bridge, because of my relatively short wheelbase of 254, does not allow me 20,000 on the pusher and drives. They give me like 19, but then like the second one is like 19.2, 19.7, so it's like 58,000 pounds, you know. And so if I had a Jeep, I could compensate for that. But then of course it's hard to use the pusher. But anyway, so I looked at the track paper, just, you know, to kill the time, and I see this guy advertises this tandem 302, you know. And I sent him an email. I say, I think you made a mistake here. It's probably 402, like a bigger one, 402, which is made for 60 and 70 ton Fontaine. And this guy is adamant. He responds, he says no, everything is correct. He says 3 stands for 30 ton, and he says 302 is designed for this kind of trailer, 55 ton with 125-inch neck. And I said, how many you have, you know? No, I'm kidding, but I said, so what's the price? I'm in a meeting, I'll have to get back to you. And he says, oh, I also have a single axle Jeep 302. So it's the same model. Like, I'm still confused, like 302, but one is tandem, one is single, but it's pretty short. It's not one of those long neck Jeeps. It's a very compact one, you know, with small tires. They're like 255 or something, right? And I said, what's the price difference between tandem axle and single axle? And he says, oh, maybe $5,000. And I said, well, so give me your price and I'll talk to my financing company. I don't know. And that was like at 12 o'clock, and the guy was in a meeting. Then I call him at 3 o'clock, and then I email him again at 4. Okay, give me a couple of hours. Time now is 7. I still didn't hear from him. But anyway, so this guy is in US, in Texas. So that's what I've been doing. Just researching. Then I looked at Trail King again. I looked at Fontaine. Trying to see what I can do, you know, to get loads. And then I talked to one guy. One guy still wants to buy my trailer, even though I said that I don't want to sell it. But this guy, he's doing local construction work, and he's watching my videos actually. And he sends me a message saying that is my trailer still for sale? And I said, well, for fair price it might be. And I said, why are you interested in a drop side rail trailer? And he says he's moving local rental equipment, and he has a tailboard level deck, 18 inches loaded height, but his deck is only 24 feet, and he's having trouble with rock trucks. He says his customer has 3 of these big mine you know, rock trucks, and he says they're too tall on his trailer. I don't know. He said, and I said, so what's your deck height loaded? He says 18, but in reality you cannot drive like that, so it has to be, you have to go a bit higher, right? Otherwise you start catching the ground. And he says realistically it's 20 inches top of the deck to the ground when fully loaded. And he says he cannot load these big rock trucks because he becomes too tall, but also I think his deck is too short. And so I've been talking to this guy. He says he's trying to sell his trailer and he's interested in mine. So if I do sell it, you know, that's what I was thinking, like maybe I can just get a bigger trailer. But then you see these loads, like that air conditioning thing, right, where you can make $10 a mile with a 30-ton trailer. You know, that's what really confusing about this, that there's no clear-cut, you know, recipe. Oh, and then there was another load which I almost booked. The guy agreed to my price. Like, I see a load, right? I started searching other parts of Canada, and this guy had a crane in Nova Scotia, 1,000 miles away, right? And which sounds to some people might sound crazy, but you know, when people pay tens of thousands of dollars, you know, why not, right? And this guy agrees to my rate, and I'm not cheap, because I cannot be cheap. I only have one truck, one trailer. If I do a cheap load, I miss a good load. So no cheap loads for this trucker. So the guy agrees to my rate, and I checked everything. Like, it's not too heavy. It's like 88,000 pounds, right? It's a crane. And I did cranes before, if you remember. I did the blue one for Mammoth, right? And then because it was the same Grove, the first number was the same. I think it was like Grove 5 something, right? Like Series 5. And then after already the guy agreed to my rate, I'm just sitting in my truck. I was about to watch a movie, and I decided to just double check the specs of this thing, you know, because somehow I got fixed up on that blue one that I hauled before. And this is like an older crane, so I guess they sold it. It was going to the port in Florida. So from Nova Scotia, this big crane had to go, you know, through Maine, Connecticut, New Jersey. It would be like a lot of permits, and that's why I said, you know, you have to pay, you know, better. You have to pay good money because there's a lot of permits. And then the guy says, yeah, okay, you got it. So we have a deal. And I said, okay, I'll wait for your load confirmation before I go 1,000 miles, right? And then I start searching the specs. I find this machine, and it's a used, like, I think it's like 93 or something, or 2003, but old. But only then I realized that it was a 4-axle crane. You know, the one I did before was just 2 axles, right? That one was already big, and it barely fit in my space. If you watch again that video, and I link it at the end, that blue crane, but this one is longer, you know. And the guy does say in the listing, only then I realized the guy does say that RGNE, extendable, you know. And I start calling my, you know, people I know that deal with cranes, and they say, yeah, you cannot do it with 26-foot well, you know. You need at least like 30, or better yet, like 32 feet. And of course it's 88,000 pounds, you know, so you cannot do it with a 35-40 ton extendable. So basically you need to have a 50, or better yet 55 ton extendable trailer, probably with 4 axles, you know. And so yeah, the next day, it was already too late on that evening, so on the next day I emailed this guy, and he confirmed, like the shipper, the broker, he confirmed. He says, oh yeah, you need like 32, 33 feet in the well. I said, okay, sorry, then it's not gonna work, you know. And that's the biggest, that's basically 2 major things I'm always fighting. I'm fighting mostly low prices, where I don't want to do something very cheap. That's like, I don't know, 8 out of 10. So that's like the major problem why I wasn't able to find a load this week and previous week, right? Because I don't want to do cheap loads. But the second reason is wrong equipment, you know. These people have all kinds of, you know, requirements for your load. So sometimes I could have made money with an extendable 55-ton trailer, like in this case with Nova Scotia, right? Others I would make money with a 30-ton Fontaine with 12-inch loaded deck height. They have a model like that. And then you can take big light loads, you know, but then you don't need a truck like mine, which weighs 27,000 pounds, right? And sometimes you would make money with what? So extendable, or super light and low, or sometimes, yeah, you need like a 12-axle rig, where people will pay you good money for like that 107,000 pounds, right? Where they started with low, but then they reached more or less okay price. But you need, you know, even 55 ton, you need all these Jeeps and well, for that load I would just need a Jeep, you know. Like realistically, that 107,000, because it only was going to Brooklyn, right? So you only deal with 2 states, actually 1 state, New York, and New York is very weight friendly. Like, I'm registered for 150,000 pounds. I know they don't need a stinger, like they're okay with lots of weight on the back, but for that 107,000 I would need at least like a tandem Jeep, I don't know, single axle Jeep. So this is it, so no loads. But like I said, it's Friday. Big thing is happening in Ontario, which is called Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest, beer fest. We have lots of Germans in here, and I checked online. Turns out it's now in full swing until October 5th. And there's a bunch of all these halls, like, you know, big like club kind of things, where I think you have to buy a ticket. So I want to go, if the weather is good, because now it seems like it's gonna rain pretty bad like this. That's why it's only 7 o'clock. I'm already have lights on, right? But I want to grab my Nikon and go do some beer photography. That's the plan for the weekend. And and they all wear these traditional garments, like girls in all these skirts, like, but our Germans, by the way, they're very different from Germans from Europe. They don't. One guy told me, I used to work at this McKinnon, right? And there was this German guy, and I said, and I learned German at the university, right? But I start talking to him. He does not understand me. I don't understand him, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's what we like." The accent is so different from Europe. So, but the clothes, the traditions, it's very cool. Like lots of beer, lots of music. Like traditional German music. So I thought it would be fun, just as long as the weather is good. So that's my plan for the weekend, and of course then Monday, Tuesday we'll restart the exciting pastime known as load search, and hopefully next week I'll be able to find it. Will be properly priced and that can fit my trailer. So ciao, arrivederci, пока. Yeah, just as I finished the video, the guy sent me an email with the pricing. So the single axle 302 Fontaine is 22,400 US, and a 2-axle is 31,000, which is on the one hand not too expensive, on the other hand it's expensive. And of course that's where it will go, because I have this flip box, right? So this will have to be in the very end, and the Jeep will be somewhere here. So not sure if it'll work or not, but it's an interesting idea. Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Super. So I told the guy that I'll munch on this idea until Monday, and then maybe make a decision,